This story was told by Miss Kwong, who shared a terrifying experience that happened during her university years. About 14 or 15 years ago, her university changed the traditional hazing ritual into a rural volunteer camp. The intention was to shift away from harmful practices and toward something meaningful, connecting freshmen and seniors through shared service. The location was an old school nestled in a strange terrain. Though the name and province are not disclosed, it's said to be well known. If the truth about what happened there were to spread, no one would ever dare set foot in the place again. The school sat on roughly 10 rai of land. The front was fenced like any school, with a road to the left and thick forest at the rear, beyond which lay a body of water. No one could say for sure whether it was a river or a stream. The right side bordered a residential village. Altogether, it formed a strange rectangle, somewhat isolated and difficult to exit. Dozens of students and several professors arrived to begin the camp. At first, everything was normal. Then, one male professor, known for being flamboyant and close with students, told Miss Kwong about a dream he had. In the dream, an old man with a frightening appearance walked into the school and said, "Oh wow, so many children, all so cute. Mind if I take one?" The professor declined, explaining he was responsible for the students. The old man grew angry. "You have so many. What's the harm in giving me one? I don't care. I'll take one anyway." Everyone laughed it off. They assumed the professor had been watching too many horror movies or was just exhausted. No one took the dream seriously. The camp proceeded as planned. On the third day, they held the initiation event, like a scout-style obstacle course, with 8 activity stations built by villagers in the forest behind the school. Students were divided into 8 groups and released in intervals. Around 5 or 6 p.m. during the rainy season, when night fell early, something terrible happened. In one of the middle groups, maybe the 3rd or 4th, a student named Tom, Miss Kwong's junior, asked to step aside to urinate while moving between stations 4 and 5. He wandered off the path for privacy. 3 minutes passed. Then 4. Still no Tom. His friends began to worry. After 10 minutes, they went looking, but Tom had vanished. The search began in earnest. Seniors organized teams. Professors were informed. At first, they searched the area themselves. Then, they asked villagers for help. Finally, they called the police. Police were skeptical. The school was fenced on all sides. How could anyone go missing? But after 2 or 3 hours passed and darkness set in, they agreed to help. A systematic sweep began. Officers stood shoulder to shoulder, sweeping the forest from the road inward, row by row, like folding cloth. They repeated the pattern 4 times. Nothing. No Tom. His parents were notified. They insisted their son had no reason to run away. He didn't know anyone in the area. And this was years before social media made secret rendezvous common. When all else failed, the organizers called for spiritual help. A revered elderly monk, abbot of the local temple, was summoned. He arrived at 2 a.m. He glanced at the surroundings and immediately scolded the school director. "Didn't I warn you not to host events like this here? How many times must I say it?" The director said nothing. The monk walked into the forest, bowed, murmured something, and then said, "He's here, but we can't get him now. It's too late. If we go in, things will get worse. Wait until morning." Everyone was anxious. Villagers begged to continue the search, but the monk replied, "Then go by yourselves." No one dared. At dawn, after breakfast, the monk asked to be taken to the spot where Tam disappeared. A friend pointed out the area between stations 4 and 5. The monk looked, then turned to the director. "I knew it." He sat in silence, then asked if anyone had seen anything strange before this happened. The professor, who'd had the dream, stepped forward and shared it. The monk listened and said, "Then it must be you. You must perform the ritual. Only you saw the man." The professor tried to refuse, even pointing at Miss Kwong, but the monk was firm. "No one else saw him. Only you can bring him back." Terrified, the professor asked what to do. The monk handed him a sacred thread and instructed him to walk slowly, pulling it along. If it caught on something, he was to stop. If he met the old man, he was to say, "I've come to take the child back. I won't give him to you." As the professor moved, trembling, the monk shouted to the forest, "I've come to take the child back. You've taken enough already." Miss Kwang recalled that the thread stretched far. Nearly half the spool was used before it suddenly tightened. The monk stood, alert. "This is it." He walked fast, so fast the students could barely keep up. They found the professor kneeling in tears, holding Tom. The monk said gently, "You've got him back, haven't you?" The professor nodded, still weeping. Later, the professor recounted what had happened. As he walked into the deep forest, it grew strangely cold. Then, just like in the dream, the old man appeared and shouted, "Why are you here?" Shaking, the professor answered as instructed, "I've come to take the child back. I won't give him to you." The old man screamed, "He's mine." But the professor stood his ground. "The monk sent me." At that moment, the monk approached. The old man vanished. The professor ran and found Tom. When Tom recovered, He explained what had happened. After stepping off the trail, he felt faint and collapsed. When he awoke, he was sitting behind a tree. The same old man was there, back turned, silent. Tom saw friends and even his mother searching. Sometimes they walked right past him but couldn't see him. Whenever Tom tried to speak, the old man warned, "Don't make a sound. Duck." He obeyed, terrified. He cried silently, unable to speak. He feared that if the man turned around, his face would be monstrous. Afterward, the school director asked the monk what had happened. The monk replied, "The man was once a janitor. Years ago, his beloved nephew went missing in the forest. When they found the body days later, the man lost his sanity. He began living in the forest, only coming out to sweep and forage. Eventually, he died under the same tree where his nephew had died, and where Tam had vanished. Since then, other children had disappeared, always after new teachers dreamed of the old man asking for a child. Teachers often joked in the dream, saying, "Sure, take one if you want," and the child would vanish. The monk had warned the school before. No nighttime activities, no entering the forest after dark. But his warnings were ignored. After Tom's return, the rules changed. No more overnight stays, no forest events after sunset. If camps were held, students stayed at the temple. Miss Kwang's story is a chilling reminder that local warnings exist for a reason. Some legends are not just folklore. They are echoes of truth.